So India win their first game of the Champions Trophy. They didn't necessarily look at their best all the way through the game, but it was against probably the worst team in the tournament. I mean, there was cramps that couldn't stop Hidroy. Axar Patel should have had a hat-trick, and Shubman Gill just shows that he's classy as ever and probably the best ODI player on the planet. I am joined by Sank from Cricket is Simple today. Sank, how do you think India got on today? Were you happy with that performance, or could it have been better?
I think there's definitely a lot of room to improvement there. It was one of those warm-up type games where you could tell there was a lot of lethargicness in the way they played. The fielding wasn't the best. Batting wise, they couldn't get going until Shubman Gill in the second half of his innings. So yeah, it was a lot of runs left out there from fielding and batting wise. So hopefully it's just a warm-up game for them and they get into the tournament properly now.
Yeah, do you know what it was one of the things that I noticed. It was almost like taking all of those wickets really early on, so having Bangladesh 32 for 5 almost went against India. It's like they took those wickets and all of a sudden it was like, oh, well, this is just a bit of a joke.
Yeah.
It's when you kind of play, you're almost playing under 12s cricket and you know that you're playing a team that isn't as good as yours. And you just kind of mess about in the field and throw at the wrong end and try and get stupid run outs and do backflips into catches. And they just kind of look like they were mucking around. And I don't want to take anything away from the Droid and Jake Rowley's partnership because that was the reason it was a game. When they were 32 for 5, I thought this game was going to be over in 2 hours. I thought they were bowled out for 50 and India would chase it down in 4 overs. I thought Hidroy's century was great, even with the cramps that he was having. I thought he batted really well, and just okay, it was slow, but did you expect anything else out of that?
No. The toss was quite interesting. India have gone in with a spin heavy team in their squad, and bowling first is going to favour them because there's no dew, the pitches are dry, so that it's unusual that Bangladesh wanted to bat first, knowing India's strengths. You want to put India under pressure by putting them in, getting them to put runs on the board, and then take those spinners almost out the equation because then with the lights and dew taking effect, they're not going to be as effective. So it was an interesting toss for Bangladesh. But yeah, after that, it almost felt like it was one-way street, and India didn't really have to earn the wickets. There weren't great shots that Bangladeshi batsmen played. Axar Patel, he wasn't turning it. It just did enough off the pitch to get those edges. But yeah, because they didn't have to earn those wickets, didn't have to create any plans for those batters. It was almost like this is too easy. And after that, the infamous catch seen around the world that did not happen with Rohit Sharma. It was almost like, yeah, we're going to roll them over for under 150 here, and yeah, just get batting before the lights even come on. Is very very laid back approach in the second half of that Bangladesh innings.
Yeah, I mean, the first, especially those first 2 wickets, they were just nothing shots from the Bangladesh batsmen. It just literally gave it away. It was just wafting at stuff, and you can't. That's the problem with this Bangladesh team. I said it in the preview for them. It's just they don't have enough batting. I mean, their top 3 averages 27 in ODI cricket, and it's just not good enough. You look at even England, who notoriously just go out and try and slog it for the first 10 overs. At least they average 34. I mean, when you're 7 worse than England in the power play, I'd start to worry about that at one point. I mean, the Axar, I've never been so upset that a wicket didn't happen for a team that I don't support. For that Axar Patel hat trick that should have been. I mean, it was a dolly from Rohit Sharma. I can't believe he dropped it.
Yeah, one of the easiest catches you'll get a slip, and they say there's no such thing as an easy slip catch. There is when it comes off a spinner waist high just to the side. You didn't even need to dive for it. It was just put your hands there. It would have just come straight into your hands. And that the moment I don't want to say the moment got to him because Rohit Sharma was a big time player, but genuinely hat trick in an ICC tournament. They don't come around that often. Jerome Taylor's the only other player to have taken one Champions Trophy. Axel Patel on his debut in Champions Trophy would have been the first player to take a hat trick on debut, first spinner for anywhere in the world to have taken a hat trick in the Champions Trophy. So yeah, it was a bad drop by Rohit Sharma.
Yeah, it really was. Again, it's going back to, it was all a little bit jokey. It was a little bit like putting 7 slips in the cordon for the hat trick
Yeah.
ball and a short leg, and it was almost like they were all dancing around. Because let's be honest, with hat trick balls, 9 times out of 10, the batsman just blocks it and nothing really happens. And especially with there being very little turn on offer, which, if anything, actually sometimes benefits, especially Axar and Jadeja. That's kind of what they've made a career off of, of bowling it quick and some turn, some don't. But I thought he had to take it. I was gutted. I was absolutely gutted because there wasn't. It was probably half full at Dubai today. I mean, that crowd goes nuts if that catch is taken. And I was gutted by it. Do you know what? That partnership of Axar Patel and Jadeja in those middle overs is just so tough. I noticed it in the England series. They both bowl the overs in a minute and a half, and all of a sudden it's been 20 minutes and 10 overs gone by, and you've got it 4 and over.
Yeah, and they're accurate. They don't give you anything. Like, they just put it on the spot, and the ball after ball, and like you said, like within a minute the over's finished, and you just realise, oh, hang on a minute, I couldn't do anything there. And suddenly on the other side, Jadeja comes on and he does the same. And you need to have a plan as a batting team. You need to be proactive. Either you get out the crease, and to be fair, J.K. Ali was trying that today. He was trying to move down the leg side to create a bit more room. He was trying to open up that offside a lot more, but it just wasn't. Axel Patel just kept chasing him down leg side and kept pinning him. But yeah, that all they need is a little bit of turn. Those type of bowlers, if they can get a little bit of turn, then it's a lottery whether it's going to turn or not. They just put it on the spot and let the pitch do the rest.
Yeah, I mean, what did you think about the selection? Not going for Chakravarti, not going for Arshdeep, and going for Harshit and Kuldeep instead.
Yeah, well, the result will say that Harshit Rana is probably a fair choice now that he's taken 3 wickets. But I would have preferred Arshdeep just because of the different angle. Otherwise, you get very samey. And it's not like he's not proven himself. He's a very, very good white ball bowler. He's a leading wicket taker for India in T20s. So yeah, he does deserve an extended run. But the other half of the opening pair, Mohammad Shami, how good is it to have it back, and how good is it to have seam talk again back in commentators?
Oh,
The minute he starts bowling, it's like, look at that seam, bolt upright.
He's so good. He's so good. And the problem that he has is that usually his bowling partner is the best bowler in the world by quite some distance. But Shami needs to be talked to in the top 5. He's so good. And I don't want to kind of go back to the Australia series all of a sudden, but that series is completely different if Shami plays.
Yeah, 100%. Him and Bumrah would have caused a lot of problems. Every time Australia knew they see off Bumrah, they were fine again. But having Shami at the other end would have just caused so many problems to them. Siraj, with all due respect, he's good, but he's young. He'll always give away that one bad ball in an over, whereas Shami wouldn't. And he'd just put the ball in a spot where he'll just let the seam do the talking.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Siraj has always been a very good third option.
Yeah.
He's never been that second option, someone that you can be dependent on. I thought Shami was incredible today. Okay, it slightly worried me not having Bumrah, but then you see Shami turn up as how he has done, and just looks unbelievable. I mean, I didn't think that Bumrah missing would actually be a massive issue, because I do think that this Dubai track is going to turn, and that the spinners that India have got are probably going to be enough to at least semi-final, final stuff, and probably win the whole thing. I mean, they were 13-8 to win it without Bumrah. I mean, imagine if they had Bumrah, they'd be less than evens to win the whole thing. It would have been ridiculous. In terms of India's batting, Shubman Gill, another century, probably the best ODI player in the world at the moment.
Yeah.
he just, I don't know how, he just looks so elegant in everything that he
Mm.
does. What did you think of him today? Was it another?
Yeah, exceptional, and the platform Roy Shoma provided as well. A lot of criticism because he gets out in the 40s, the 30s quite a lot. But in the so going back to the 2023 World Cup, he still made 600 runs, top of the order.
Hmm.
But he was striking at 125, and since then he's been striking closer to 130. That as an opener in ODI just sets a platform. That meant Gill didn't have to go from the outset. He could just lay a platform, take his time, pick the bad balls, and build his innings slowly. But some of the shots, there's two sixes, one pull shot that
Hmm.
was around 100 meters, and then the pickup flick over mid wicket. It was just pure timing on those shots. It's almost like he didn't hit them, but they went far. It's just absolute class. And yeah, I'm happy that he's hit some form in the England series just preceding this tournament. He scored a century there as well, so it's good to have an opener scoring those big runs.
Yeah, I do think, especially Rohit's innings today. Okay, this is the sixth time in his last 18 innings that he's been out in the 40s,
Mhm.
in ODI cricket. But I do think him going, what was it, 42 of 28 today?
Yeah,
I just think that, I mean, they were 70 for one around that at the end
mm,
of the power play. That
yeah,
took all of the pressure out of the chase.
yeah,
Even if they're 25 for no loss after 10 or
mm,
35 for no loss after 10, that chase all of a sudden is 5 and over. It's difficult in the middle overs because
mm,
I thought Mahedi and Rashad both bowled really well, and the pitch slowed down once that lacquer came off the ball. It was difficult to bat,
mm,
and you saw that. So I thought that Rohit's innings was actually a lot better than the stats will say, and it's not something that you often see,
yeah,
especially in Indian cricket, of just a selfless innings.
mm,
Really,
yeah.
he isn't playing for the stats anymore.
No, and his 30, 40 every game, striking at over 100 is worth at least 60, 70 striking run a ball.
Mm,
It just gets you that platform. It takes the sting out of any chasers. And if you're trying to set a target, you can afford the middle order players like Kohli and KL Rahul who are not naturally as attacking. They can set the platform and take their time and consume a few balls to get going. And it just it sets up the team very, very well.
Yeah, it actually reminds me of something that Abhishek Sharma does in the T20 side. Of
Yeah,
he has now realised that in T20 cricket, 25 off 12 is better than 50 off 40,
yeah,
and it's that taking away of I got a half century, I got a century today. Okay, you
mm,
still need Gill to go on and make that century,
yeah.
but sometimes you need to realise that okay, I'm the one that needs to go, you're the one that needs to stay to the end. And
Mm.
I think now that they've worked that out, that is a pretty terrifying thought, as someone that isn't an India fan.
Yeah, and you almost need to like for the shorter format for T20, you need to forget the average, the 50s and the hundreds. You need to look at the strike rate of a player to judge them now,
Mm,
because the resources are only 120, so you're not getting that many balls to make an impact. So if you can make a big impact in 20, 30 balls that you face, that is worth a lot more than you getting the numbers in your 50 column increased.
mm. I mean, someone that does like a 50 and 100, Virat Kohli, out again to leg spin
Yeah,
today. I think he's now averaging 6 against leg spin in the last couple of years in ODI
yeah,
cricket. Adil Rashid got him out. Was it all 3 times in the
yeah.
ODI series versus England? Out to leg spin again today. Is it a worry? Is it the new fifth stump line that he gets out to in Test cricket?
Yeah, on the bright side, he's not nicking off to slip.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is that. But yeah, Adil Rashid has really ruined his technique against leg spin. He can't seem to pick it. It's just he seems to be playing for the wrong one all the time, just inside the line, and the ball just grips, turns a little bit, and gets the outside edge, or he gets bowled. It's not so much a worry because there aren't that many great leg spinners. England have one, and then I wouldn't rate Zampa the same level as Adil Rashid. So it's not a worry moving forward in the tournament, because he's not going to face that many good leg spinners in the tournament. But it is his form is a bit of a worry. In the 2023 World Cup, I mean, he was the leading run scorer, scoring nearly 800 runs. So big tournaments, we know he can do it, he can
Mm.
perform. It's whether or not in this short space of time when there's only 5-6 games, can he turn it on and score a couple of big ones?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's enough depth in India. It's almost like it was in the T20 World Cup of he didn't score a run until the final. And then when it was the final, he scored the 75 or whatever it was and got India up to a total that they could defend. If they can get another performance out of that, they can carry him for half the tournament.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not the end of the world. There's enough runs in that batting lineup
yeah,
to cover a few Kohli 20s and 10s here and there.
yeah.
I think
And,
they'll be
that's the
absolutely
benefit
fine.
of Rohit Sharma going at 130. It
Mm.
means Virat can like consume 20 balls for a 10 just to get himself going. And if he gets going, then great, he can catch up. But if he doesn't, then the team doesn't suffer.
Yeah. I thought India were pretty good. I thought they were poor in the field today. That was about it. But again, I think that was a little bit of almost thinking that Bangladesh is slightly beneath them and just not
Mm,
quite good enough to be on the same pitch as them, which isn't probably the best way to look at a professional team, but they are probably the worst team in the tournament. And if you're going to have an off game in the field, I mean, I thought they were sensational against England in that ODI series in the field, so
mm,
it's not something that I'm worried about. I'd like to see Arshdeep play rather than Harshit because I think that he offers you something in that power play. I could see what they were trying to do, but I just think you've got enough spin in those middle overs that you don't need that. I think I saw someone describe Harshit as Liam Plunkett today, which I thought,
yeah,
okay, everyone gets described as Liam Plunkett in ODI cricket now, of bowling that heavy ball. So I'd like
yeah,
to see Harshit, and I'd also like to see Chakravarti. Whether they're just saving him to bowl at Harry Brook, I'm not 100% sure.
yeah. Have to wait for the semi-final for that.
Yes, I have no hope that England will make it. I'm sure you'll be playing South Africa or someone like that. But for India next, Pakistan, the big one on Sunday. You want to have an early prediction?
Yeah, well, it's good that ICC have given India 2 minnows to get the tournament going.
Yeah.
It's the big one is the following Sunday against New Zealand. That's going to decide who
Mm,
tops the table. Um, I think there's a lot of pressure on Pakistan at the moment, which is unusual for a game, where India are playing because normally a lot of expectations are on India, but Pakistan are the host. They were poor, very poor in those first 15 overs yesterday batting. They just could not get anything going against New Zealand. At home, first game of the tournament, you want to really set the scene and set the pace, but they were off it. So they are coming in with a lot of pressure on Sunday. And I think for India, it's just going to be much of the same. Maybe they'll make a change. They're talking about Ashdeep coming in instead of Rana. They just give it that angle. But unlikely. They might just stick to the winning combination. Pakistan have a lot of questions though. That top order, Fakhar Zaman's now out as well. Babar Azam was a makeshift opener anyway. So for them to be already in this tournament, one game in, having to change that again, it is worrisome for Pakistan. But it is Pakistan, the most mercurial side in the world. They could just turn up, knock 400 on, and then bowl India out for 150. It's yeah, they are a bizarre team, and you can see that happening as well.
yeah, I had a deal who was a Pakistan fan on the podcast yesterday, and I said to him, it wouldn't surprise me if Pakistan go and beat India and then lose to Bangladesh, because that's just Pakistan.
Yeah.
You have no idea who's going to turn up. I
Mm,
mean, India are massive favourites for me. Um, if Pakistan had a full strength side, and even if Saim Ayub was playing,
mm,
I might fancy them a little bit more. I think it's a shame that Pakistan aren't playing this game in Pakistan. I
mm.
completely understand why India don't want to travel to Pakistan, and I understand the financial reasons why India are still in the tournament.
Yeah.
Um, but it was just kind of, as someone who likes Pakistan cricket, it's a shame that
Mm,
politics gets involved, and
yeah.
I just thought that they haven't had an ICC event in 30 years, and I thought
Mm,
if there was a way that match could happen, it would be great for all the fans. Because that's the thing. I think the players don't have an issue with each other.
yeah.
Um, It's
Yeah,
just
and as a fan, I'd love to see that. It's
mm,
love to see this generation of players play in Pakistan, because since, was it 2004 or 2006? I can't remember. That was the last time India toured Pakistan,
mm,
and effectively, like, Virat Kohli has never played in Pakistan.
mm,
So it's a bizarre stat. I understand. Yeah, from a fan perspective, I want to see that, but it's not so much. And people, just to be clear, people go on about, oh, it's the security in Pakistan that's a problem. It's There is partially that, and the Indian government are wary of that, but it's more so the security of the players back home. It's
mm,
There's a lot of people who don't want to do anything with Pakistan, and as a result, if the players are seen traveling to Pakistan, they take it out on the players' families and homes and so on back home, which is hence the big security risk on the players' lives and their families' lives. So the decisions made mostly with that in mind. I think Pakistan itself is a very safe country. They've done a lot to improve players' safety and welfare when the touring sides come in. So yeah, it's a tough decision, but yeah, from a fan perspective, that would have been amazing to see in India playing in Lahore or Karachi.
yeah, and I genuinely think that if if there was a decision to the players, um, and they said, okay, it's not safe for us, we'll put our hands up and say we're not going to go. It's not safe for our families back home. Whatever the reason is for them personally, they'd be more than happy to turn around and say, well, we're not going to play. We're not going to travel. So Sri Lanka can be in. That's absolutely fine. I 100% believe that most of the players will have that feeling. The problem is if you don't have India in the tournament, you don't make any money.
Yeah, yeah,
I think the deal for the ICC events in India is something like 6 billion.
mm,
So this is worth 3 billion to Indian
yeah,
TV. That's money you
yeah,
can't say no to.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and you see every ICC tournament has an India-Pakistan match, regardless of where they are in the seedings. Yeah, so they always end up in the same group. You have that one match, regardless whether it's in New York, whether it's last tournament was in India, wherever it is, you have an India-Pakistan match, and that because they know how much money it makes. I mean, it's I read a stat somewhere, it's like 3 times as many viewers in that for that match as a Super Bowl. And
crazy.
Super Bowl is like the biggest event in the Western Hemisphere, and it's nothing compared to an India-Pakistan match.
No, it is. I think I was listening to Jared Kimber. They said that half the money that they make from the Champions Trophy will be made in that one game.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's including all of India's games as well. So that
mm,
India Pakistan will make half the revenue that
yeah,
the whole tournament will make. So the game's got to happen. So you need
mm,
India there to make money. Otherwise, you might as well say, well, we're not going to do it.
yeah,
And the problem is, if India aren't at any ICC tournament, then there's no point of the ICC really existing.
yeah,
I don't want world cricket to be like that, but unfortunately, there is a country the size of India and the love of cricket that they have for India, and
mm,
it's always going to skew it. It skews
yeah,
it in football. There's
mm,
favourable treatment to the big six clubs because they
yeah,
bring in the most revenue.
yeah,
I, it winds me up sometimes, but from a business standpoint, I completely get it.
yeah.
Um,
And 10 years ago, I was very frustrated with the situation with BCCI, because it was always like, well, we want to do this, and ICC will go, yeah, that's fine, because they were taking the money, but they weren't making cricket any better.
mm,
Um, Whereas now, because of the introduction of WPL, which is huge, but also because they have started privatizing a lot, like IPL is a completely private run,
mm,
with all the franchises. But those franchises, because they're privatized, they have so much money, they're opening academies around the world. So you could see that the plan of BCCI is slowly taking effect, and a lot more beneficiaries are coming out of it. The first class game. It's if you become a first class cricketer in India, you get a minimum 20,000 per month salary, as well as a pension out of it. So even if you play one game, you get a pension, which for a population of 1.6 billion, if you can just get to that level, it's a life changing amount. So they are improving the game slowly. I mean, there's still a lot of like a lot of backhanded deals and stuff that go on that I'll probably get cancelled if I talk about. But it,
Mm.
that's the downside of business. But yeah, I just hope they keep doing good. And Jay Shah, it's interesting to see what his plans are. He's been there for 3 months, but we haven't heard much from him. So it'll be interesting to see what he's working on in the background. But yeah, you do need India, but also India does need cricket as well. So if all the other countries just went, yeah, we don't want to play anymore, suddenly it doesn't cricket it's not viable anymore.
A 10-month IPL with just India players gets quite
Yeah.
dull after a while.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
I'll be tired of seeing Yashasvi Jaiswal scoring a century every other game.
who have we got today? Oh, we've got Bumrah bowling to Kohli again for the 10th time this week.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, great. I mean, in terms, that's slightly off topic, but I mean, in 10 years' time, is the BCCI still the biggest board, or is it the IPL owners?
And this is a tricky position BCCI have got themselves into because they are almost at the behest of the owners. The owners have so much more money than BCCI that they could just go, actually, why do we need to listen to BCCI? We can just form our own league and we can pay the players whatever we want.
Mm.
And they can turn around and go, they're already in South Africa. Now they're in England. They're in the Caribbean. We can go, right, like you just said, 10-month IPL around the world. And with test windows in there, they've got enough money to pull the players out the boards. They can afford to do that. So yeah, BCCI are in a tricky position. So they have to balance that well, and they have to keep giving these opportunities, like investing in England, for example, to these owners to keep them satisfied, to keep the profit coming in.
Yeah, I mean, a slightly controversial take that I always have is that I think the IPL should take over all of franchise cricket. I think you should have 5, 6 competitions that you go around the world and you have whoever it is, whether it's the MI brand, it's the Royals brand, it's the Super Giants brand, whoever it is, and you just have that attached to a city in the top 5 countries, whether it's the Caribbean, England, South Africa, Australia. We just go round and we play 3 weeks to a month in that country, and then it all comes round to one big final.
Mm.
In the end, and it's 6 weeks to 2 months long in India, and the season gets played out like that. That takes up 6 months of the year. You have 2 test windows and an ICC competition in the middle.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you think about it from a climate perspective, you almost can afford 3 test windows. One is from like January to March, where the Southern
Mm.
Hemisphere can play, and South Africa, New Zealand, Australia. Then you'll have June till August, where anyone in Europe can play, and then a little bit, and Caribbean, and then a little bit later from October, November, where India and Pakistan can play. So you can have like a couple of months protected, and have a tournament around it. And you almost could create 2 tiers where you'll have the tier 1 playing in the big test nations across the
Mm.
world. So IPL goes around those. And then tier 2, where it happens in European countries. I mean, the European Cricket League, that is growing quite a lot. And you see the number of players coming out of there as well. So you could have second tier there, which almost becomes like a feeder system into it.
Mm.
And if it wouldn't surprise me, but IPL owners can take ownership into those as well and start developing those, and suddenly you have a pathway into it. So rather than bidding on a player, you have to develop a player through your academy, and it almost becomes like a football system.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's the way that cricket needs to go.
Yeah.
Well, it's not going to be all happy times for um, a bloke who wants to go down to Gloucestershire for the day and read his paper. But the problem is that's not bringing in as much money. That's still going to exist. It's just not going to be the pinnacle of the game anymore. And I think once that people start to get into that position, people are going to realise that. But
I know we started talking about the Champions Trophy, and that is a one-day tournament. But what do you make of the one-day format?
I can't see it lasting.
Mm.
I really can't see it lasting.
Yeah.
I don't know what it fulfills. I think that if I like ODI as a format, I think that it is good. It's probably my least favourite out of the 3. But I don't see how it you can push it towards families
Yeah.
because it's too long. And if you've got young kids, they're not going to sit there for 10 hours and watch it.
Mm.
It's not necessarily doesn't have the ebbs and flows that a test match
Mm.
does.
Yeah.
And it can't always be as exciting as a T20 is for the whole 3.5 hours that it's on.
Yeah.
So I just think it's going to get to a point where boards are going to just stop scheduling ODIs. So you're not going to have a 3 T20, 3 ODIs. It's just going to be 5 or 7 T20 series.
Yeah. The biggest plus point of ODIs is that it gives you an 8-9 hour window to sell to advertisers to say, look, you can advertise and you've got an almost captive audience here to advertise your products. The downside is that the product is not as exciting as it used to be. So T20, for a shorter space of time, you get more eyeballs than you would in the middle overs. Like if I tell you what happened today between the 25th and the 45th over of the
No,
Bangladesh innings, you
you're not.
go, no. But if I ask you saying, what will happen between the 15th and the 20th over of a T20, you go, oh, actually, I remember this a lot more. And the extreme side, the test side, is more the drama builds. You get a break every day, and then you talk about it, you read about it. You go, oh, what's happening? What's going to be the tactics the next day, and so on. So it does build up through the whole 5 days, and it comes to a natural, high or low depending on which side you're on. But yeah, ODIs are kind of left in that middle ground, where I wouldn't be sad to see it go. And almost like if you get the feeling if India had won that last tournament, BCCI would have just gone, yeah, let's try and push this out now.
Yeah,
Um,
it did definitely feel like that. Whether that now moves to 2027, I could see that happening. They say,
mm,
I think there is still one scheduled for 2031, but that feels far enough away that we could probably say, okay, it's not going to happen. We're going to move away from it. I mean, I think we probably get to a point where we start seeing franchise test matches at some point.
yeah, I'm not sure what the old bloke reading the paper in Gloucestershire would think about that.
No.
But it's, but yeah, that would be unusual. And one thing, I love Test cricket. I think is my favorite format. But I have to defend it a lot more than I have to the other formats. And that almost speaks volumes that I'm constantly saying, no, 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 it is the best format. You just need to get into it. It's like, well, if a product can't stand there by itself and sell itself,
Mm.
is it really a great product? Or are we just because it's so ingrained to us that we grew up watching Test cricket a lot more than the others that we love it, but someone new coming into it can't sit through and can't understand the nuances of a 5 day game as easily as they would have.
Yeah, and I think that's just the generation that we're in now. Everything is so instant, and so everything's 60 seconds long, and attention spans are lower than they've ever
Mm,
been. Is it the time to be pushing Test cricket out? I think there will always be an audience for Test cricket. I think
yeah.
there is still young people who like cricket and like
Mm,
Test match cricket.
yeah.
I don't think that there's necessarily, because I think sometimes it is portrayed as, oh, young people like T20 cricket. And it's like, well, no, there are still young people that like Test cricket. There are people
Yeah.
that started watching Test cricket with their dad, their granddad,
Mm,
their mum, their nan, whoever it is,
yeah.
and they grew up watching Test cricket because that's what the generation that they looked up to
Yeah.
watched and what was on in the household. I like cricket because my dad introduced me to cricket, and it
Yeah.
was a case of we watched the 2005 Ashes together, and I was
Mm,
got hooked on cricket. Okay, I'd been
yeah.
to a few games before and played a bit
Mm,
myself, but that was really what gripped me.
yeah.
It wasn't because we had the IPL on ITV4 when it first started.
Yeah.
Um, I still watched it, but it
Yeah.
wasn't what gripped me. And I still
Mm,
think that there is something that a test match offers you that no other format can.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But my son's a perfect example. He's 10 years old now, but
mm,
he wasn't into the cricket as I grew up with when he was 6, 7 years old. But but one, Easter holidays, he went to my dad, and my dad put on IPL, and then he just got hooked onto it. He's
Mm.
like, actually, I like cricket. I want to watch more of it. And now, he every year we go to a couple of days of a test match, and he enjoys that now as well. So it's not, it, you can't just go, oh, if you watch T20s, you're just, a noob who doesn't understand any complexities of the game. You need to build up that. Go, if you like T20, that's fine. There's other formats. If you want to try it, we're here to support you on that journey. But you can't just dismiss someone because they like T20, and you can't dislike someone because they like the 100. And I know that's another controversial thing, but
Mm.
you go to a 100 game and you see the number of families that are around, number of kids that go to it. And that's what you need. It's the likes of you and me are almost that second generation now, which we're growing out of, the last of the test loving generations. You need the youngsters to like cricket, the bat and ball sport, not the format. And that's where we need to just separate to go, are they going there to watch bat versus ball? Are they going there to support the 100? And a lot of the 99% would say they are going to see bat versus ball. And that's what you have to appreciate. Cricket is just a bat and ball sport. It's not a T20, it's not a 100, it's not a test match.
No, I think actually something that the 100 has done very well is really push to that families, because there was a lot of kickback of, well, we've got the blast, why do we
Mm.
need the 100? But if you go
Yeah.
to a blast game, it's
Mm.
an after work social. It's not somewhere that you
Yeah.
want to really bring your kids.
No.
Um, I I know that Old Trafford is your nearest
Yeah. Yeah.
ground, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, we would always go to, even at Lords would be where we'd always go.
Mm.
And it was a pisser,
Yeah.
basically what it was.
Yeah.
Uh, it was everyone coming out of the city who,
Mm.
instead of going to a pub, went to the cricket, because the
Yeah.
tickets were 20, 25 quid. They could claim it on the company card,
Mm.
taking a customer out, and they'd go and have a drink. The 100 is
Yeah.
not like that. The 100 is
Yeah.
completely different to that. And it
Mm.
only lasts 2.5, 3 hours. And there's a
Yeah.
women's game on before, which has really helped the women's game. So
Mm.
if you've got daughters and things like that, they can go out and see
Yeah.
and look up to their idols. And
Yeah.
I think
Well,
it's done.
yeah, already this year, so Manchester Originals have contacted me saying, right, can you get a group down to Old Trafford
Mm,
for the game in August? I said, yeah. I put a message out, and within 24 hours, I've had 60 parents going, yep, we're there. Get us
mm,
the tickets. That's it, because they've been to a match before. They know that it's suitable for the family. They're not going to get a bunch of drunks around them, that they're worried that they're going to spill their drinks or say something that the kids will end up repeating in front of grandparents the following Sunday roast.
yeah.
And it's all that. It just makes it so much more easier to introduce kids to cricket when you don't have the pressures around you of protecting them, where you're just there to enjoy the game.
Yeah, I think it's massively helped for
Yeah.
people want to take their kids to the cricket, because
Mm.
it's short, it's family friendly. They do a lot in the crowd. Um, it's really easy to tell who plays for which team.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's been great for cricket, and the money that it's brought in, the money that it's going to pump through for grassroots cricket and county
Mm.
cricket, can only be good. Okay,
Yeah.
there was a big thing of, well, we've sold our soul, we've sold August. August has gone to India, and these big tech titans and
Mm.
Tom Brady and
Yeah.
whoever else has bought one.
Yeah.
And I just kind of thought, well, it's still cricket. It's not
Yeah.
anything different. Okay, it's
Yeah.
not. It's not Middlesex v Surrey. It's not Lancs versus Yorkshire.
Mm.
It's not
Yeah.
that. Okay, that's fine. All you got to do is just forget about it. But
Mm.
there's more money. There's going to be better players. The cricket standard is going to be a lot better.
Yeah.
So instead of losing a whole month of August that we've just given up, well, no, we've just got really good cricket
Yeah.
10 minutes
Yeah.
down the road from us all of a sudden.
Yeah. And the flip side, if you don't want to watch the 100, is that the players who are not getting opportunity in the One Day Cup, the domestic tournament, suddenly the second team players are getting exposed into the first team to the better standard of cricket. So
Mm,
you just go, uh, overall, from a standard perspective in England, it's an improvement, because the best players in the country are playing in the 100, and the second best are playing in the Premier ODI competition. domestically. So it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, I think it's been good. I mean, do we find Rocky Flintoff if he doesn't play in the One Day Cup last year?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's plenty. I think cricket's could be in a better place. I think there's a few people in it that are currently um, running it the wrong way. But I think once everyone gets an idea of how cricket has to be run and for it to be profitable and grow the game, and if they'll ever learn that you can put cricket clips on social media without it getting copyright struck, we might even grow the game that way. I
Yeah,
mean,
the amount of times I've been banned from Instagram for trying to explain what the LBW rule is using a video, just it's not worth it.
I don't even put photos on my page anymore because I just
Yeah,
got fed up with it. I just
yeah,
thought I'm not interested. I'm just going to put a picture of the scorecard and you can imagine it in your head
yeah,
because I'm so fed up of being done for copyright. But
yeah.
I mean, I could probably go for an hour and saying I've probably already used up too much of your time. Thank you very much for coming on.
Right.
For everyone listening, watching, thank you very much for coming in. We'll be back on Saturday for the England versus Australia game. So like the video, follow the podcast, subscribe to the channel wherever you are. Sank's info will be in the description or the show notes below. So go and check him out. He explains cricket incredibly well and has fantastic opinions that you've heard on here today. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.